Welcome to A Moment of Xen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Xen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Xen Sams.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Welcome back to episode 255. So excited to share my Saturday evenings with you. Today's show is about reinvention of skin, of hormones, of destinations, and of the brain itself. We begin in honor of Black History Month, spotlighting excellence in medicine and representation in dermatology because culturally informed care matters. In our Lifted by Science segment brought to you by CO2 Lift, we're joined by Dr. Jeanine Downie, the board-certified dermatologist, director of image dermatology in Montclair, New Jersey, Castle Connolly top doctor, published author of over 100 papers. Today, we're discussing the unique needs of skin of color, from post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation to anti-aging strategies, and why innovation in dermatologic science must include inclusive understanding. Representation in medicine isn't symbolic, my friends, it's clinical. Next, in our Clean Collective series brought to you by Society Brands and Crunchi, we welcome Dr. Jila Senemar, board-certified OB-GYN, specializing in perimenopause, menopause, hormone therapy, and metabolic health. Today's conversation reframes what so many women have been told is just aging. We're unpacking endocrine disruptors, environmental load, and why low-tox living isn't just a trend. It's a hormone prevention strategy. Then in our Elevating Experiences series, brought to you by MTK Group New York, we explore destination evolution with Brian Miller, VP of Sales at Brittain Resorts and Hotels. We're talking Myrtle Beach 2.0, a coastal escape reinvented with sophistication, golf, cultural, culinary depth, and modern hospitality transformation. And as we close with a deeply personal and powerful right brain conversation featuring Dr. Robert Melillo, world-renowned clinician, researcher, and author of Disconnected Kids, alongside singer-songwriter and Right Brain podcast co-host and co-founder Ellis Melillo. Together, father and daughter explore what it truly means to be wired differently, how right brain sensitivity, anxiety, creativity, and neurodiversity shift from being understood to being, well, brilliantly aligned. Stay tuned. Coming up next, we have Dr. Jeanine Downie. She joins us today to discuss the unique needs of African-American skin, from post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation and anti-aging concerns to need-to-know innovative treatments like CO2 Lift. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Skin by Sari. Nationally recognized injector Sari Katz is redefining cosmetic treatments with an approach that's subtle, precise, and confidence-driven. Whether you're new to injectables or looking for an expert touch, Sari creates results that enhance your natural features. Never mask them. Discover what personalized aesthetics should feel like. To learn more, visit skinbysari.com or follow at skinbysari on Instagram.
Welcome back, beautiful New York tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Xen Sams. Welcome back to the Lifted by Science series brought to you by CO2 Lift. Today, we welcome back Dr. Jeanine Downie. She's a board-certified dermatologist and is the director of Image Dermatology P.C. in Montclair, New Jersey. She's got extensive training and experience in all aspects of dermatology, cosmetic dermatology, laser, and dermatological surgery. She's been honored repeatedly by Castle Connolly as one of New York Metropolitans Top Doctors. She's also a sought-after lecturer, author, and medical consultant for shows like Good Morning America and The Today Show. In honor of Black History Month, she joins us today to discuss the unique needs of African-American skin, from post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation and anti-aging concerns to need-to-know innovative treatments like CO2 Lift. Welcome to the show, superstar.
I'm honored, and I'm so pleased and proud of how much you've grown. And I couldn't be more delighted for you. And for myself to be back on.
Thanks, Dr. Downie. So I'm going to dive right in. When you look at the research, it shows that patients report higher satisfaction and trust when they see physicians who look like them. Yet only about 3% of dermatologists in the United States are Black or African American,
Hmm.
with even fewer being women like yourself.
Right.
And while advances have been made in education focusing on treating skin of color, there's still a long way to go. So, from your perspective as an African American female board certified dermatologist, where do you still see the biggest gaps in understanding representation or clinical care when it comes to treating skin of color? And how do those gaps impact patients today?
So basically, with the field of dermatology, it's the most difficult thing to get when you're in medical school. So it's the most difficult thing to match in. So because of that, a lot of African Americans, myself included, were told you're reaching too high, do pediatrics, do family practice, do OB-GYN. No way you could get a spot in derm. I was unfortunately told that several times, but I had really bad acne and really bad eczema. And fortunately for my patients and myself, I'm very vain in terms of how I want to, look a certain way. So I said, you know what? I'm going to push. I'm going to try. I'm going to make the connections. I'm going to do what I need to do. And my mom is a doctor's then. My grandpa, her father, was a dentist. So I grew up with a family of doctors. So I was more comfortable than a lot of other minorities with, reaching out, trying to network, talking to this one, talking to that one, because I thought that I could do it. And the issue is you have to believe in yourself before you can get other people to believe in you. And a lot of African Americans don't have the advantage that I have of my mom. My mom's the first Black woman that graduated from med school here in the state of New Jersey in 1960. It was Seton Hall Med Dent that she graduated from. It was 7 white women and my mom, and that was the first class where women graduated. So I had that at my disposal. So nowadays, unfortunately, what's happening is minorities are being kind of veered one way or the other into other fields. So in my opinion, number one, I mentor. So I have 8 mentees right now. I'm busy, so I can't possibly even have any more. And I adore all of them. And they're at different stages of their career. Some are residents, some are young doctors getting out. One is in college wanting to be a dermatologist, that type of thing. But I mentor because I think it's important. And underrepresented minorities include African Americans, 3.4%, and that's males and females, Latinos, which is about 5.7%, and Native Americans, which is less than 1% in terms of indigenous doctors. So we 3 groups make up underrepresented minorities. For Black History Month, I'll focus on African Americans. What happens is we're not making the connections, getting the recommendations, and getting even to do the rotations in the department. It's rotations, it's research, and it's putting your best face forward and making the other doctors comfortable with who you are.
Yeah. Dr. Downie, I so appreciate you saying that because the data really supports what you're describing. The Association of American Medical Colleges reports that there's only about 3% of dermatologists that are identifying as Black or African American, and studies published in JAMA Dermatology have shown that darker skin tones are significantly underrepresented in medical textbooks and training materials. And that lack of visual education alone can delay diagnoses of conditions like melanoma in patients of color, which, according to the American Academy of Dermatology, are often caught at later stages and have worse outcomes. So it really underscores that this isn't just about representation. It's about clinical accuracy and early detection and ultimately survival.
Right. Right. That's exactly correct. And so in terms of representation in textbooks, I'm the first African American female to ever train in the Department of Dermatology at Mount Sinai. Some of the professors were nice, some were not. I was focused on getting my education. I was a chief resident there. I was focused on getting through. When we would open the textbooks then, they would always have Black and brown people representative of sexually transmitted diseases. So you would see all these STDs. So you would think when you were training at Mount Sinai and a lot of different school, residencies across the country, that only Black and brown people had STDs. It's like, what the actual heck? But then when it came to skin cancer, which makes me sick to my stomach too. When you're talking about skin cancer and you look at all the textbooks across the country, mostly it's white skin that was represented. And quite frankly, Bob Marley died of a malignant melanoma that was under his toenail, acrolentiginous melanoma it was that spread to his brain. The metastases are what ultimately killed him. So African Americans
I had
do
no
get,
idea.
oh yeah. African Americans do get skin cancers in sometimes unusual places and sometimes usual places. But we need to have the images, like you said, Zen, in the textbooks so we can be educated and aware.
Yeah. Now let's chat specifically about the unique needs of African American skin, specifically when it comes to aging. So aging can represent differently in darker skin tones, and that's compared to the lighter skin tones.
Yeah.
So what anti-aging concerns do you see most often in your African American patients of color? How should treatment plans be tailored to respect and protect melanin-rich skin?
So, number one, on darker skin tones, I see a lot more hyperpigmentation. So, when I get a mosquito bite, I get a dark spot. When I get a pimple, even if I don't pick it, I get a dark spot. And that is the same for a lot of my patients. So, there needs to be a strict emphasis on SPF, wearing SPF, reapplying it. And I'm talking about sun protection factor 30 and above that blocks UVA, UVB, that blocks blue light from your phone, your computer, your Apple Watch, your iPad, and blocks infrared, which is heat. Because a lot of my patients that are Black and brown, and a lot of my Caucasian patients and Latino patients and Native American patients don't wear sunblock at all, except when they're going on vacation, which makes me nuts. And then if they wear it, they don't reapply it. If they wear it, it's not an SPF of 30. And if they wear it, it's not broad spectrum coverage. So I explain to my patients it's an everyday thing for the health and well-being of their skin so they have less hyperpigmentation in the long run. So I tell them from their forehead down to their décolleté, including under their eyes, including all over their lips every day with several reapplications. And that's all there is to it. That's the number one aging concern of Black and brown people. Number two would be the sagging. A lot of us don't get as many wrinkles, you know what I'm saying? Like the deep wrinkles, but we do get a lot of facial sagging. And so there's volume loss. You see it, just with aging, Zen, and you see it with the GLP-1s significantly right now, where the whole face is hanging down, kind of like a bloodhound or a Shar-Pei or something like that, which is cute for those dogs, but not maybe cute for the patients involved, and they want help. And so, I explained to them, we can use an injectable called Voluma. We can use Sculptra. I also tell my patients that they need, in terms of their health and their well-being of their skin, to hydrate it and moisturize it. That's where CO2 lift comes in. You basically mix these two little gels together in a bowl. You put it all over your face, your neck, wherever you're dry, safe to use around the eyes, safe to use in intimate areas. They actually have a CO2 V-lift for down there to hydrate. And it really does, within 45 minutes, rehydrate your skin, give you back that glow factor, decrease inflammation, decrease hyperpigmentation. And this is something that I chronically use at least once a week. I used one last night because I was going to be on your show today and I wanted that glow.
That's why you're glowing. Well, it sounds like anti-aging for patients of color isn't just about collagen stimulation. It's about pigment control and inflammation management and that barrier support. And that nuance is something I don't think the mainstream beauty conversation always addresses. So I love that you brought CO2 lift into the conversation. Now, as more patients with darker skin seek out aesthetic and medical treatments, right, it's important to recognize that they may face a higher risk of conditions like you mentioned earlier, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So how can providers help these patients combat that post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation? And what does an effective, safe approach actually look like? Is it back to the CO2 Lift Pro treatment?
Probably. So, I mean, if depending on your skin type, for example, if you're using a laser, Zen, depending on your skin type, maybe if you're lighter, you can put the laser levels a little higher. If you're browner, you need to put the laser levels a little bit lower. You'll still have an effective treatment, but it needs to be safe for the actual skin type. For anybody using a laser on brown skin, please make sure that it's approved to use on all skin types. And if you're not sure, or if it's not, then don't use it because you're going to wind up having scarring. I did a whole segment on Nightline, I believe that was 2 years ago, talking about laser burns and laser scarring in skin of color. And that was with a lot of doctors, nurses, and other, practitioners of medicine that did not realize this laser is not safe for all skin types. And that's something that the onus is on us as people that are providing care to patients to know what lasers are safe and what lasers are not. Some lasers you can turn down the levels, like I said. Some lasers just shouldn't be used at all. Same for chemical peels. Some of the really deep chemical peels that can help with anti-aging faster are not acceptable and not safe for darker skin tones. And people need to realize that. So every single person that walks in my office, I don't care if they're blonde hair, blue eyes, and they look like they're Irish, I still ask what they are, because I have one blonde hair, blue eyed, very, very Norwegian looking patient, and she is Swedish, 20%, and 80% Native American. And had I not asked her, I would have never known. And she hyperpigments like crazy. So you have to ask your patients what their ethnic background is. Do not ever assume, because you can't tell. You can't tell.
Yeah.
You know,
it reinforces that aggressive treatments, especially lasers or chemical peels, have to be selected carefully.
Right.
And there's a real difference
Right.
between strong and strategic. And I
Right.
love that you're emphasizing
Right.
safety protocols, because prevention of inflammation is often just as
it's
important
critical.
as treatment of pigment.
And then after the laser, I always recommend CO2 lifts. After some of the peels, I recommend the CO2 lifts. Botox, filler, those are different. Those are not based on melanin, so they're not based on skin tone. So that's how much do you need. But then in terms of bruising, some of the bruising can turn into significant hyperpigmentation, especially under the eyes in Black and brown people. So if they are not willing to use the CO2 lift, I am not willing to fill under their eyes. It's just a standard that I go by that's really helped me over the long run, because it helps to decrease the bruising, calm the inflammation. After you're putting needles in the face, most people are slightly inflamed. So this is one of the things that really, really helps.
Yeah. And what's compelling here is the science behind the carbon dioxide therapy itself. I mean, studies on carboxytherapy have demonstrated increased oxygenation and improved microcirculation in treated tissue. And oxygen delivery is essential for wound healing and that collagen production that we're always talking about. So
I love it.
For patients of color, especially, minimizing that inflammation while still stimulating regeneration is really key.
Right.
So if we can enhance skin quality without triggering the melanocyte overactivity, that's a major win.
Right.
And it sounds like
a major win. And it increases moisturization by 114%. And it does boost type 3 collagen and a little bit of type 1 collagen. So
I love it. It really, truly, this product is regenerative, proprietary, clinically verified and researched, and it's so simple. It offers a way to really improve tone, texture, and that recovery without the downtime risks that sometimes
And then it
come
can
with
improve your sex life also.
the V. All right. Now, before we sign off, I know you recently lectured at MCAS meeting in Paris. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd love to know, what were some of the most exciting topics that came up? You know how I feel about dermatology. I've had this regenerative segment for years. I love talking about it. Were there any emerging trends or insights that you think will meaningfully impact how we treat skin of color moving forward?
So it was all the buzz about regeneration. So Sculptra is really doing very, very well, I would say, in this country and, around the world, because it's a biostimulatory process that stimulates collagen under the surface of the skin, all over the face. I do it on the neck. I do it on the chest. I do it under the arms right here on the tops of the knees. And it really does stimulate the collagen and help the skin to look, basically fresher and better. So the bioregeneration, not just for skin of color Zen, but for everyone, was a huge buzzword there. Natural was a huge buzzword. People were concerned about filler in terms of like Juvederm, Restylane, Bellatero, those products. And they're not as concerned now, because a little bit of filler, like I explained to my patients, can really lift you. You don't want to put a ton right here because this will look fake. But if you put a little here, that will really lift you. If you have a little crease here in your lip, that can really help you a lot. So you can do filler that it looks natural. And I explained to my patients, like, I have some filler in my hands. They still look natural, but my hands were looking too bony. I'm trying to stick to my diet, not to lose weight from my hands. But as you get older, that's what happens. I want to lose weight from my thighs, not my hands. And so I explained to people, pick a natural looking doctor so you can have natural looking results. And then hair is big, Zen. Everyone's talking about hair. So with skin of color and black hair, it's a lot of the same. The Definage 150K hair follicle serum, Nutrafol was a big winner at the conference. Exstresse are the new hair gummies that everybody's buzzing about. The Lambdaptil has shampoo and spray that worked really well. But the winner was talking about PRP and talking about Keralase, the hair restoration laser. I own that laser. I literally bought it for myself, but I allow my patients to use it. It's no needles, no downtime, pain-free. The laser light opens the channels of the hair follicles, and then you rub in a proprietary mixture of stem cells and peptides that's made by Dr. Amy Taub. And it really works on basically over 90% of patients to help significantly with hair loss, because hair is big. People are stressed. They're damaging their hair. They're breaking their hair, and they don't want to resort to wigs and weaves. So they're trying to figure out what else is out there. So I would say regenerative medicine with Sculptra, understanding that fillers don't need to make you look fake, and natural, and hair were like the three main things from Paris that I took home.
Wow. Well, first of all, IMCAS is one of the most respected global aesthetic congresses, so that's a big deal. And that's fascinating. International research is really increasingly emphasizing, like you said, the regenerative approaches and inclusive clinical trials, which I'm really happy about because historically...
Yeah, and I do a ton of clinical trials, and inclusivity is my middle name. So I love clinical trials, and that is so important to me.
Yeah, no, 100%. So hearing that this conversation is evolving globally is incredibly encouraging. It feels like we're moving toward more personalized, melanin-conscious protocols, which is exactly where medicine should be headed, especially when we're honoring Black History Month. And we are at the end of our date, my dear. I feel like I need to drive to your office right now for some tweaks. That was our Lifted by Science segment, brought to you by CO2 Lift. And that was the incredible Dr. Jeanine Downie, board-certified dermatologist and director of Image Dermatology P.C. in Montclair, New Jersey. Definitely check her out online at imagedermatology.com. And you could follow her directly on Instagram at Jeanine Downie. That's Downie. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. That was our Lifted by Science series, brought to you by CO2 Lift. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance.
For more information or to order CO2 Lift, ask your skincare professional or go to co2lift.com.
Welcome back, beautiful New York tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Today, we're stepping into another conversation from our Clean Collective series, brought to you by Society Brands and Crunchi. We're living in a time where women are burning out faster, feeling hormonally fragile earlier, and being told, often quietly, that this is just aging. But the data tells a very different story. According to Endocrine research, women today are exposed to hundreds of synthetic chemicals daily, many of which are known or suspected endocrine disruptors. And those exposures don't just disappear, they accumulate. Today's conversation is titled Decline Disruptors for a Reason. What really is throwing women's hormones off balance? And we're also going to be unpacking why low-tox living isn't just a trend or a hype. It's a hormone strategy, particularly for women navigating perimenopause and menopause. Joining me is Dr. Jila Senemar. She's a board-certified OB-GYN with over 20 years of clinical experience, specializing in perimenopause, menopause, hormone therapy, and metabolic health, helping women move from confusion to clarity during one of those most under-supported phases of our lives. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you for having me today.
So excited to have you on. I'm very passionate about this topic because I feel like I'm living it. So let's talk about the decline disruptors and the bigger picture. So the Endocrine Society has reported that even low dose, everyday exposure to certain chemicals can interfere with hormone signaling, especially estrogen and progesterone and thyroid function. Yet many women, doctor, are still told their symptoms are normal. So from what you're seeing clinically, what are the biggest decline disruptors quietly impacting our hormones today?
Thanks for starting with that question because, this is such a big conversation and we really need to kind of shift our focus and reframe what is happening and what women are being told. Because a lot of times they're just kind of being pushed aside and just, kind of there's miscommunication, lack of information out there. And so women feel lost, especially in this midlife stage where a lot of different things are happening in their bodies. And they're really starting to doubt themselves in terms of what they're experiencing. A lot of women that I see are entering perimenopause already kind of depleted per se, metabolically, emotionally, environmentally. So what may look like a normal hormonal decline is really accelerated by the way they're living. And one of the biggest things I see is kind of like an insulin resistance. This is like a quiet driver that we see daily. This leads to kind of like metabolic dysfunction. It can destabilize estrogen signaling and amplify symptoms that most women complain about, which is fatigue, brain fog, visceral weight gain, this midlife, middle of the body weight gain that they're experiencing. They don't even know where it's coming from. Now, top that with the chronic stress of what we're living under, lack of sleep, increased cortisol levels, and the body is basically in a fight or flight, state instead of repair and regenerate and recover. So really aging is something that is inevitable, but this accelerated decline that we're seeing is quite modifiable. And that's where we really need to be focusing on with women.
Right. And that's so validating what you just said, because so many of us feel like we're losing ourselves and our minds, when in reality, our biology is responding to stressors it was never designed to handle.
Correct. Especially at this juncture, with everything going on in our environment and our ultra processed foods that we're ingesting on a daily basis. This is really, critical.
Too much.
It's too
Right.
much.
So let's talk about air quality and environmental load, because this is, part of the picture. So there's also growing concern around air quality and environmental pollutants. The World Health Organization has linked airborne toxins to systemic inflammation, oxidative stress, and hormonal dysregulation. Yet this feels abstract for most people. So what does science actually confirm about environmental toxins in the air and their role in hormonal imbalance or even accelerated aging?
So it's interesting. The science around all of these environmental exposures and things that we're talking about has actually matured and has come quite a long way. And in what it's telling us and how we should really apply that to women's health. And we want to make women aware, but not fearful of this, because I think once you tell them about it, they get worried, they're concerned, and they feel overwhelmed, to be honest with you. And they don't know really where to start with their health. They're at a loss. They're being bombarded with ads about everything every single day. So they don't know what's real, what isn't, and where do I start with this? And like you mentioned previously, all of these things play into the role of hormonal disruption, thyroid dysfunction, and metabolic changes that we're experiencing. The air quality is what we don't talk about. The fine particulate pollution things they are driving that oxidative stress that affects our cells. So metabolic health of our cells is really what it's impacting. And so really the work we need to be doing is repairing our bodies on a cellular level. And that isn't by taking supplements. It's by really dialing in what's going on in our life and making sure we're sleeping, we're minimizing stress, all of those things play into it. But what I really want women to understand that it's not about being perfect. You can't live in a bubble. It's about making small tweaks on a daily basis that will add up over time. So in 6 months, you look back and you're at a different place than you were 6 months ago.
Yeah. And I appreciate how you're grounding this in science, because women don't need fear. They need context and control. You're right. And simple changes like even opening your window for 10 minutes a day to release those aerosols and those toxins within our four walls helps a great deal. Mm-hmm. Open the window, breathe fresh air, go out for a walk, right? These are basic things. Now, let's talk about skin as a daily exposure point. So this is where things become actionable. The skin is our largest organ, and studies show that certain ingredients applied topically can enter the bloodstream within minutes. And this really shifted my own behavior, not just as a woman, but as a mom. Once I understood that daily exposure compounds, I became extremely selective, including with my daughter's products, because she's a Sephora kid. She's 10. And it's why I use Crunchi, and it's the only beauty brand I trust enough for my daughter. It's EWG verified. It uses organic ingredients and avoids known endocrine disruptors, because I know that reducing toxic load doesn't have to start with perfection, to your point, but it does have to start with awareness. So can you explain how everyday skincare and personal care products contribute to cumulative toxic burden, especially during perimenopause and menopause?
You know, we always seem to forget that the skin is our biggest organ. It covers our whole body, and we tend to kind of lather everything on our bodies on a daily basis. And that is it adds up over time. And we don't pay enough attention to it. Women use on average over a dozen different personal care products daily. And while it's not really one product or the other, it's the addition of all of them over your entire body surface that's really where it's at. And it absorbs into your skin, it absorbs into the bloodstream, and affects, again, on that cellular level that we were talking about. But here's what we need to start with. Again, we don't want you to go and throw everything out overnight, but actually pay attention to what it is that you are purchasing and that you are using. Yes, listen, I used to go to Sephora, my daughter did too. And it's a matter of shifting that narrative and explaining the why behind what we're talking about, and how now there are so many beautiful, amazing, clean brand, products out there, such as Crunchi, which I love all of their stuff and I use them as well. But again, you can still get the same quality, but not have those endocrine disruptors. What we see with this is, since these things are being absorbed so much into our systems, we're having higher rates of, infertility at a younger age in women. We're seeing more polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, and all of these things are being affected by what we are exposing ourselves to on a daily basis.
Mm.
So really kind of tuning in, finding what works, and minimizing that exposure is what is going to drive us forward and make us healthier going forward.
Yeah, that's such a wake-up call, because it reframes skincare from something optional to something biological. I mean, we have to think about this stuff, which brings me to the low-tox living as a strategy in whole. So research published in environmental health journals shows that reducing chemical exposure can actually improve hormone sensitivity and metabolic markers over time. So that's powerful. Why do you view low-tox living not as a lifestyle trend, but as a legitimate hormone and longevity strategy for women?
So remember, we're talking about tweaks and little changes in your daily activities and things that you use around your home that are going to kind of be a cumulative effect going forward in a positive manner. Again, the wipes that we use to wipe the counter, where we put our food, all of those things can build up over time. And we were never really paying attention to it until recently, because we're working backwards. We're seeing the data and saying, wait, what changed from before to now? And why are we seeing these shifts in our body and in our health, which we want to live longer, but we want to live longer healthier. We don't want to just live longer. We want to have health span, not just lifespan, basically. And what our bodies are exposed to in terms of chemicals and things like that affects our metabolic health and well-being, affects our hormones and how we go through perimenopause and menopause, and how we come out on the other side of it. When that toxic load is high, then your body again goes into defense mode rather than repair mode. So longevity at its core is really about preserving your body's capacity to repair itself and function at its best and highest quality and capability. But again, we want to make sure you don't want to wait for things to start in order to treat them. You want to be preventative, which is where the distinction comes between, conventional medicine and Eastern medicine and now longevity care. It's about preventing these things from happening. And by minimizing all of these endocrine disruptors in our daily products in our homes, that's where we're going to be seeing the needle move the most in terms of becoming healthier.
Yeah. And now, to just as a sign off, I know, we've repeated this, but I want to leave our audience with some practical solutions, small little steps that they could take, actionable ones. So women listening right now are juggling careers and kids and parents and their own health. So overhauls aren't really realistic. So if a woman wanted to just lower her toxic burden without that overwhelm, where should she begin? I mean, we talked about why skincare often is one of the smartest first steps, but what are your three, actionable immediate steps? Yes.
Yeah, like your call to action at this juncture, really, I actually have a friend who does low-tox living. That is her career now. She's shifted and pivoted into where she'll go into your home and help you kind of overhaul your house from ground up. But again, not everybody has access to that. But where I would say to start is definitely your daily skincare routine. What you're putting on your body, really dial that in, change one thing at a time, and you will see those benefits. The quality of the water that you're using.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, it's, my daughter's away at college, and the water quality where she is affecting her immensely, where we can tell the difference when she's home versus when she's away.
Yeah.
So it's that important. And again, she's 19, but she's figured it out on her own, which, goes to say a lot of the conversations that we're having are, kind of spreading to a wider audience, which is really where we want it to be. And I think the other thing is microplastics in everything that we use. Again, we didn't pay attention to this before. All our water bottles with the plastic in them, and then you leave it in your car and it gets warm and heated and you still drink the water. It's the little tweaks, I think, it adds up. Like in my house, we were the same. And now it's converted. Everything's glass. Everything's even all the water that we buy is glass bottles. Even in my new practice, everything is glass based, because I just know if I can make that change, at least we've done something in the positive manner and going in the direction. But again, it's all about not scaring people, giving them actionable little things that they can do on a daily basis, which then again will transfer into a bigger picture of health and well-being for them.
Yeah. And that's exactly what women need. We need permission to start small without guilt or fear. So thank you for saying all this.
Listen, I see women on a daily basis in my office, and they just don't know where to start. And that's why it's so important to listen, kind of explain everything and break it down for them so they understand the necessity to, making these changes and improvements in their lifestyle. It's all about lifestyle modification. I can give you hormones, I can give you peptides, I can give you all of that. But if the basics aren't in place, none of that's going to work or matter.
There you go. You guys can follow Dr. Jila Senemar on Instagram at Dr. Jila Senemar directly on her page, and you can learn more at JilaMD.com. That was the Clean Collective conversation brought to you by Crunchi, clean, EWG verified beauty aligned with the way women actually live, choose, and care for their families. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by Cleanomic. Cleanomic zip bags are certified compostable. They break down into nutrient-rich fertilizer that nourishes the earth. They're BPA-free, so no harmful chemicals leak into your food. Available in snack, sandwich, quart, and gallon sizes. They ship straight to your door. No more store runs. Plus, get free trash bags for life with the subscription. Protect your food and health from hidden microplastic particles by heading to cleanomic.com today.
Welcome back, New York tri-state area and beyond. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Elevating Experiences series brought to you by MTK Group New York, where we spotlight destinations evolving into modern travel must-dos. Today's destination is Myrtle Beach, but not the nostalgic version from the decades past. Today, Myrtle Beach is reinventing itself as a coastal escape with depth and sophistication, a place that blends beachfront relaxation with culture, golf, culinary vibrancy, and year-round energy. Consider this. Myrtle Beach draws more than 20 million visitors annually, making it one of the most visited destinations of the country. And Brittain Resorts and Hotels isn't just a part of that. They've been driving transformation within the destination itself. From oceanfront classics to upgraded experiences and revitalized resorts, they're helping define what modern Myrtle Beach feels like. Let's bring in the expert guiding that evolution, Brian Miller, Vice President of Sales for Brittain Resorts and Hotels. They are a hospitality management company with over 30 properties and more than 4,700 rooms, suites, and condos under management across the Southeast. We're chatting Myrtle Beach 2.0, the reinvented coastal escape. Brian Miller, welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you. Glad to be on. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's dive right in. So
Sure.
When people hear Myrtle Beach today, they're hearing serious destination momentum. I always say this is from the major visitor numbers to the expanded infrastructure and attractions. So for listeners who might still think of the classic beach town image, how would you describe that evolution of Myrtle Beach into what you're calling Myrtle Beach 2.0?
Yeah, I think, we've always tried to stay ahead of the curve and offer a family-friendly setting. We've had, we started this with this company owned in 1943 when it was just the beach, right? And I think what Myrtle Beach has done since then is just continue to expand the offering as times have changed, right? We've gone from just the beach to over 100 golf courses. At one point, we had 100 golf courses in here to shows and attractions and other venues. And now we're attracting national sponsors like Top Golf has come in a few years ago. And I think our two biggest destinations, both Broadway at the beach and Barefoot Landing, have spent millions just staying ahead of the curve and providing great dining options and other attractions for guests.
It sounds like the destination has matured, not just grown bigger, but really broadened what it means to visitors in terms of experiences, right? That's why we're calling it Myrtle Beach 2.0. I love it. So when you look at Brittain Resorts and Hotels and what you manage, it's a substantial footprint, right? Oceanfront resorts, updated shared spaces, and even multi-brand offerings. We've seen major renovations across several Myrtle Beach properties, totaling tens of millions of dollars, and all aimed at modernizing the guest experience. So how do these particular investments and the positioning of your properties help tell the story of Myrtle Beach's transformation?
Well, first and foremost, we want to stay relevant with the guest, and we understand that the guest needs change throughout the year. So our renovations are all sort of centered around that. We have sophisticated technology that does both surveying, data mining, and guest sentiment. And we take that all and factor it into the renovations that we do to our properties to provide a great guest experience. We just put, over the last 2 years, $65 million into these properties here in Myrtle Beach and stuff. So I think anybody traveling and staying with a Brittain Resorts Hotel is going to have a great experience.
Yeah, and that investment, especially when it's featured in outlets like Southern Living, tells a bigger narrative about quality and guest expectations, right?
Yeah, I think it's all centered around that quality and guest expectations, right? I don't think anybody's looking for the 1950s hotel and at these day and age. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, you're spot on. And part of what makes Myrtle Beach compelling right now is that it's not just beach and boardwalk, right? There's Broadway at the beach entertainment. There's, to your point, culinary scenes and golf footprint. That's among the most recognized in the U.S. and historically dubbed the golf capital of the world. Let's not forget that. So how do you and your teams craft experiences that draw visitors into all of that, not just sand and sea?
Yeah, probably the best thing is our Brittain Rewards program. Any guest staying with us gets part of that, and we provide free tickets to these shows and attractions and major discounts. We partner with everybody in town, and we try to sell the entire Myrtle Beach experience as opposed to just a hotel room. And I think golf is the same way with that. We try to sell the entire golf experience, not just the hotel room and stuff. So the Brittain Resorts or the Brittain Rewards program is probably a big leader in that.
That holistic approach, Brian, tying multiple elements of the destination into one stay, is exactly what distinguishes a modern travel experience from a simple vacation.
Sure, absolutely.
So let's talk about MTK partnership and group travel. So MTK Group New York is known for curating deep, intentional travel experiences, especially around golf and group trips. And with Myrtle Beach's expanded identity and Britain's revitalized properties, how does a partnership like this enhance what you can offer groups seeking elevated, purposeful travel experiences?
Yeah, so the golf package in Myrtle Beach has a long and storied career, and I think that most of what we offered, and we do probably 700,000 golf packages a year. So those are travelers coming to play golf. The golf, there's a golf course for everybody in Myrtle Beach. There are pro level courses, which, the tour comes and stops and plays the Myrtle Beach Classic here every year now. That's another event that we've added to sort of elevate. They play at the Dunes Club, which is a storied course here in Myrtle Beach. But you can go all the way down to, beginner level courses and stuff. But we've got a golf course for everybody. And the unique thing that MTK Travel was doing is really bringing that concierge service to the beach, right? You're not only going to come down and play golf, we're going to take care of your flights, right? You're going to fly you down a jet. You're going to play these golf courses. You're going to stay at this hotel. You're going to eat at these restaurants. One of the big things, I think this, is that food is a big decision maker on where people travel and stuff. And Myrtle Beach has spent a lot of time upgrading their culinary scene. We've got great restaurants in Myrtle Beach. The Pawleys Island area has always been phenomenal for restaurants. So they're going to tie that into their golf packages and bring people down to Myrtle Beach. Not only will you get a great golf experience, you'll get a great stay, you'll get a great dining experience. And then if you want to hit a show or two, right? I mean, you can do all of that here in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, that kind of collaboration where two organizations pull toward experience depth is where great travel stories begin.
Absolutely.
Now, looking forward with destination growth and renovation momentum and evolving traveler expectations, what's next for Brittain and for Myrtle Beach as a whole? What should savvy travelers and planners be excited about in the coming years?
Yeah, I tell you something we're all excited about is downtown is really on the cusp of a revitalization. There are several plans in works. They're not at the finish line yet, so we're not talking about them. But if just one of these things hit, it'll revitalize downtown. It'll bring more investment into it. It'll be a hot spot. We've got the Country Music Festival down here, which has been a huge success. Think that squared, right, or 10 times if we get some of these events done here. But the revitalization downtown is what everybody's excited about, and that should be coming in the next year or two here.
Wow, it really does feel like the destination is writing a new chapter, not replacing history, but layering in sophistication and relevance. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, Brian, thank you for an insightful look at how Myrtle Beach 2.0 is taking shape and how Brittain Resorts and Hotels is helping drive that experience forward.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
To our listeners and viewers, if you're inspired to explore elevated coastal escapes or curate group travel with intention, you can check out BrittainResorts.com. You can follow them directly on Instagram at Brittain Resorts. That's Brittain with 2 T's. And you can also check out MTK Group at MTK Group NY and at MTK Travel Club right directly on their website, MTK Group New York NY, mtkgroupny.com. And of course, this Elevating Experiences series is proudly brought to you by MTK Group New York, curating journeys that go beyond the ordinary. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Xen is brought to you by MTK Group New York. Experience travel without limits. MTK Travel Club, part of MTK Group New York, offers exclusive access to private jet travel, 5-star resorts, and unforgettable luxury experience designed around you. From seamless departures to personalized itineraries, we elevate every moment of your journey. MTK Travel Club makes extraordinary travel effortless. Visit mtkgroupny.com today to discover a new level of luxury.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Xen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Welcome back to the Right Brain segment brought to you by the Melillo Centers. Many people grow up believing they're too emotional, too anxious, or too different, when in reality, their brains are simply wired differently. And when those differences are misunderstood, they're often mislabeled. But when they're supported, they become strengths. This right brain conversation is titled Wired Differently, Brilliantly Aligned. This is a father-daughter conversation on right brain, creativity, anxiety, and neurodiverse strengths, and also from disconnected to directed, how right brain thinkers turn sensitivity into superpower. We're talking about that right brain dominance, the anxiety, the OCD. We're going to cover eating disorders and emotional sensitivity, but not as deficits, as neurological patterns that require understanding and regulation and the right environment to thrive. Joining me is our co-contributor, Dr. Robert Melillo, a world-renowned clinician, researcher, and expert in autism, neurodevelopment, and brain health. He's the author of Disconnected Kids, and his work focuses on restoring balance between the brain's hemispheres to improve behavior, learning, and that emotional regulation. And alongside him is his daughter, Ellis Melillo. She's a Nashville-based singer-songwriter and co-host of the Right Brain podcast. She brings lived experience to the conversation, openly sharing her journey with anxiety, OCD, and eating disorders, and how creativity became a tool for regulation and resilience. She's also toured with Zac Brown Band and uses her platform to break stigma around mental health and neurodiversity. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Oh, great to be here.
Great to be here.
All right. Ellis, so excited to have you on. I love your transparency and your authenticity. Every time I look at one of your segments that you do on the Right Brain podcast, I'm thinking to myself, wow, so many, especially young girls, are relating to her right now. And many right brain kids grow up feeling like something is, say, wrong with them, especially when anxiety, OCD, and, eating disorders, if you will, even show up early. So when did you realize that your brain wasn't broken, just wired differently? And how did creativity become a regulator for you instead of an escape?
I think that's something I'm still working through, but I think once I moved to Nashville and I started surrounding myself with like-minded people, I kind of realized that all of the people that I admire and looked up to struggled with similar things, and that kind of made me feel a lot better. I mean, I don't want anyone to struggle with anything, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, you found your people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that shift from, understanding that, there are others out there that are feeling and experiencing the same thing you are is everything, especially for those right brain thinkers. And I know that your dad has, a lot of experience in guiding you. Not everybody has a dad who can really just, help you repattern your brain. But Dr. Melillo, your research has long focused on those hemispheric imbalances and how right brain dysregulation can show up emotionally and behaviorally. So neurologically speaking, what's happening in the brain when Ellis says, I have anxiety, my OCD is coming back? What appears in right brain dominant children?
Yeah, I tend to always look at things in a neuroscience perspective. And so, what we know is that it's almost all of these things, these neurodivergent mental health issues, they start with traits that run in the family. And these traits are usually good things. Where one family may be, unusually talented in athletics, and another family, they are all artists, or another, they're all engineers. And all this is different networks in the brain that are just wired a little differently, a little faster in some people. And when one network on one side of the brain is a little bit more gifted or talented, it may tend to cause a little bit less activity or connectivity on the other side. And that can get extreme. And so what we see is that, with Ellis early on, we realized that, she was incredibly talented. She started singing almost before she was actually speaking. And very early on, she started writing songs, which were really amazing. But the thing that really helped me with her was that she didn't tell us about a lot of these issues that she has. So, she had areas of her brain. When someone says anxiety, a lot of people can mean different things. For her, it meant she had this sense of danger. She wouldn't sleep at night feeling like I was going to die in the middle of the night, or somebody was going to break into this house. And the right brain generates that sense of danger or fear. She also felt like a fear of being judged by other people and being hyper aware of what other people feel, like feeling other people's emotions so strongly that it overwhelms you. And a lot of young kids like her feel that, and they don't know how to express that to their parents. And so I really wasn't even aware of this until she was in college, and she explained a lot of this to me.
Well, that explanation really reframes the narrative because it number one, it helps her understand, okay, that I am normal, but it really turns fear into information. So I love that, at some point the pot filled too much. And Ellis, you went to your dad. What was that moment, that breaking moment? What happened that made you pick up the phone or go to dad and say, okay, I'm not okay?
I don't know if it was like, I think going to college was kind of a breaking moment because I always played soccer my whole life. And that was like a way to kind of get my energy out and like keep my mind focused. And then when I went to college and I had like 18 credits and I wasn't playing soccer anymore and I had zero organizational skills. So I like kept going to the wrong classes and kept missing things and I couldn't find my books. And then I also was in a sorority and I wanted to be really thin. And so I developed an eating disorder and it kind of all happened at the same time. And I kind of just, I think it was pretty obvious that I was unraveling a little bit. So
Yeah, the
I'm very,
pressure.
very
That's real
lucky.
pressure. That's real life hitting you in the face very quickly when you go to college. That shifts your entire world.
Yeah. So I always think it's like such a godsend that my dad is my dad because I don't know, I have all these things going on. And I think if I had to deal with all of that, without having any knowledge of all of the things that he's taught me over the years, I think that it probably would be such a problem. But that's why I wanted to start the podcast because, it helps everybody else that's going through it.
Absolutely. And what would you want young creatives, like especially young girls, to know about separating who they are from what they're diagnosed with?
I think my dad puts it best, which is really nice, and it helps me. Like every time he says it, I feel like a little bit better. Like the little girl in me feels a little bit better. But like, we just had another friend of mine, my friend Abby, on the podcast, and my dad was just saying like you have to remember that all those things that you were feeling when you were a kid. Like she was saying she could feel all her parents, angst, and that's why she would go and put it into a song. And my dad's like, you have to remember that's your gift. That's what you were given, was like this beautiful thing. And you always have to remember as a gift. But because you have like the stronger your gift is, the other things you're going to struggle with more. But I don't know, when you think of it as like something that you were like given that you're so lucky to have, it kind of reframes it.
Now, Dr. Melillo, parents are often told to manage symptoms rather than support the brain development. So what are the most overlooked lifestyle or even neurological factors that can dramatically improve regulation and the type of anxiety that Ellis deals with in those right brain thinkers?
Well, yeah, one of the things, again, because she has taught me so much, because she has opened up, and even growing up, she was pretty open with me about what she was feeling. And obviously I would always put it into some sort of, neuroscience or therapeutic terms. But, it's allowed me to help so many other right brain dominant individuals like her, especially young girls. And so I tell parents, there's a way of parenting a right brain creative child. And you have to first understand that with any child that seems to be struggling, whether it's, a right brain dominant issue, left brain deficit, or right, it starts with a gift. If they have an imbalance, it's because, again, literally areas and networks in their brain on one side are so strong and powerful. And in some way, they get it from the parents or from somebody else in the family. It doesn't come from nowhere. My mother was a great singer. My wife is an incredible artist, and our whole family is, right? So it runs in the family. So we recognize that it is a gift. And the fact that, the same thing that gives her this ability to tap into emotions and write about it also makes her feel those emotions sometimes too strongly, not only her emotions, but other people's emotions. And in a small child, that can be overwhelming. But it also can cause a deficit on the other side. Almost every great singer, songwriter, actor, producer, entrepreneur we've spoken to, they start off life with dyslexia or a learning disability, or they start off with this unbelievable creative ability, but it also, their emotions are really running high. But the thing is that it's not just about compensating. We can actually change that. We can build that left brain up without losing that right brain gift. And that's the key. It's not about just managing. It's about actually literally trying to change it and literally fix it, which we can do.
I feel that's where hope lives, because there are changes that people can actually make, right, to help mitigate some of the right brain superpowers there that really cause the disbalance. So what are some factors maybe that you can recommend that can dramatically improve that regulation and anxiety? Like, Ellis, is there something that helps you that your dad has really suggested on a day-to-day level to help manage everything?
Yeah, I mean, I have my red light lenses that I use when I start to feel that way, and because warm colors like reflecting off your eyes stimulates your left brain, so that helps me. And I have a TENS unit, I have a transcranial unit. I might look a little crazy when I wear them, but
Tell me what
it
those
helps.
do. Tell me what those do, because people would love to know.
I think the doctor might want to take over this question.
Okay, so give me all of your devices, and then Dr. Melillo, you tell me how those devices help her manage all her emotions.
Okay, I have red lens glasses that light up in your eyes.
Right. So again, what we're doing is we're trying to change the frequency of firing of different brain networks.
Okay.
And there are different stimuli that will create different frequencies. So like light, like red color, orange, yellow, those are frequency wavelengths that literally cause the brain to resonate in the visual areas of the left side of the brain more and inhibit the right side of the brain. So all of these things, what we're doing is trying to change the brainwave frequencies and elevate them or get them into a certain level on one side in different areas. And that can cause the other side to dampen a little bit, creating a balance in the brain.
Okay, so that's, well, what else do you do? I want to know how all of this in the bigger scheme of things is helping you manage all of your right brain superpowers. If I'm calling them superpowers because that's what they are. So Dr. Melillo, what's the second device that she's using? Or Ellis, go ahead.
There's a TENS unit, a transcranial unit, interactive metronome, touch point.
A TENS unit is a little electrical stimulating unit that, was developed initially for pain, but it actually, again, generates an electrical impulse which stimulates the muscles, which can be directed towards one side of the brain and activated, and again, create a certain frequency of firing. The transcranial unit goes right over the head, and it has a black and red electrode, and the red electrode goes over the side in an area of the brain that you want to activate. It literally activates and stimulates an area while the other side actually inhibits. So again, all of these things can be used together, and it's very powerful. And there's so many different things, but usually it's really directed individually, where we do things like eye movements and balance exercises and other physical exercises and stimulating the inner ear through movement. And then different smells can activate one side of the brain or the other. Again, vibration on the body can also change things. We'll have them do certain things like read a book, do certain math problems. Or these are all things that can be done to stimulate specifically left side of the brain. So it's like, if you had a weak muscle on one side, you exercise that muscle and it actually inhibits the other side. So that's what we're doing, is just creating balance in the brain.
This is extremely proprietary. It sounds like there's a lot of steps involved, but the fact that all of these modalities exist and you're able to implement them consistently are game changer. And how do you intentionally use music? Because we've alluded to music throughout this entire interview, or even creativity to regulate rather than suppress what you're feeling.
I think the good thing is that now that I am a songwriter for my career, even in the past when I would feel that, I would not let myself write. It was just a weird, I don't know, I was scared to let out all my feelings, which would just start a cycle of me feeling even worse. But now, because I have to go write, whether it's for me or for somebody else, and those are planned out things, it's actually pretty therapeutic, because I have to go do it no matter what. So
and you realize that it pours out easier because now you have pen to paper and you are in control of your emotions with all the tools and the modalities that your dad has given you, and you're able to really process that maturely with emotional control versus feeling like you're just all over the place, right? Like, I'm understanding how critical this process has been for you just in talking to you.
Yeah. So it's been great. And I'm
Well,
lucky that I've had my dad as my little guardian angel this entire time. You know?
Yeah, I mean, that's a powerful reframe, because creativity is communication, not chaos. That's where we're headed. So, Dr. Melillo, you've spent all these decades teaching clinicians and parents how to see neurodiversity differently. You've taught me this in just a short time that we have been working together. But how do you help families move from that sense of fear after a diagnosis to seeing neurodiversity as potential that needs the right support?
You know, the biggest anxiety that parents have is they're not told anything typically. Most doctors, they have no idea what's actually happening in the brain. They don't know what dyslexia is or ADHD is. And so, right off the bat, if you speak to parents in terms of saying, this is actually the issue, nothing's broken, nothing's damaged, there's not a genetic mutation, it's not a chemical imbalance. This is the reality, and we can change it. Those things alone are going to make a parent feel great. And we can do it in a safe and effective way, mostly without medication, where we're not going to do anything that's invasive or dangerous. And starting off by them understanding that your child is gifted. That's the first thing that starts this. And you gave that to them. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything, to hurt them. In fact, you gave them a gift, but that gift is just too powerful right now. And we can change it, and we can bring out that gift, and we can take away what really their struggles or minimize their struggles, and they can have a great life.
I love what you just said. And that makes me feel comfortable and calmer as a mother. And I'm not in the same boat as most of your, patients' mindset. But that mindset alone can change the entire trajectory of a child's life, because you are empowering the parents who are making these decisions. But if you have a fearful parent operating from a place of unknown, then that's going to also hinder the child's ability to, rewire, if you will. So I love that you are empowering the parents as well and helping shift their mindset to then be able to get to the real set of, tools and work that you need, right?
Exactly.
So Ellis, right now you're highly visible. Your career is at a great place as an artist, as an advocate, and a podcast host, which brings its own pressures. How do you protect your mental health while being still visible, creative, and emotionally open in public spaces?
I think I still have my ups and downs for sure, but I think just overall, like starting this podcast and being more open about everything has kind of helped me actually make changes in my life that I think maybe I was like ashamed in the past and didn't want to talk about them and wanted to pretend that they weren't there. But now that I am like trying to live a life where I'm helping other people, I also need to be an example for that. And I need to actively be working on myself all the time. So that's kind of like held me accountable and helped me, like, I don't know, get a lot better, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you are definitely emotionally more open and available. And I think you need to be as an artist to connect with your audience. Maybe that's why the height of your career is now, after you did all the self-work, after you were guided, and after you were able to identify those strengths and weaknesses and use it, like you said, as a place of empowerment, not shame. But that balance right there, which you said, is something so many creatives struggle to articulate. Now, Dr. Melillo, father and clinician here, this conversation is uniquely powerful because it's both professional and deeply personal, right? So I just want to say that. But as a father and clinician, what did Ellis, you said she taught you a lot. What did Ellis teach you about brain health and emotional regulation that no textbook ever could?
Well, initially in my career, I started working with a lot of things like ADHD and autism, which are more right brain delays, left brain overactivity. And looking at the symptoms, in some cases, they can look similar. And a lot of people, again, get labels thrown at them, and it doesn't mean anything from a neurological perspective. But I knew she was this big right brain dominant kid, and I knew she had some left brain struggles. And so everything that she'd go through, she also would talk to me about it and explain to me. And later on, she really explained to me what she was feeling, even as a small child. And it really taught me a lot, so that I was able to approach it in other young girls and other patients about what they were feeling. Again, the idea that her anxiety was his fear when she was a young girl, I would have never known that. I didn't understand that. The fact that she was so sensitive to other people's emotions that it was overwhelming. And then tie that into her gift and her talent, and then tie that into the neuroscience networks that I know about in the brain. It just gave me so much insight into what they were feeling, because these kids are so sensitive, and they're so sensitive to criticism, and shame is a huge right brain emotion that guides them. So you have to be really careful how you approach it. And if you don't, and they don't feel like they deserve to get better, they don't feel like they can get better, and they don't want to be vulnerable and open up. So you have to really be able to understand it. And when you can tell them, it makes them feel safe, and they're like, oh, you get me, you understand me, and I'm safe. And you know it because your daughter was like that. You know what I mean? And then it really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, that's the heart of this segment. It's science informed by love and lived experience. You are one lucky girl, Ellis.
I agree. I am.
And I love where this conversation began and where it ended, because it's truly a nice reciprocation of both of you understanding one another, and more importantly, Dr. Melillo, so humbly that you are, giving her the right amount of grace and letting her know of how much she helped you as well, right? In what you do. So I love it.
Thanks, Dad.
I mean, I feel incredibly gifted, and her music is unbelievable. Her songwriting is amazing. I mean,
okay, which brings me to my last question. This incredible song. So can you give me a little bit about it before we sign off? I know you have to go, but give me some emotional context of what inspired you to write this piece.
I was in a very bad relationship that was, I talk about it on the podcast. It was an abusive relationship, and it wasn't good, obviously. But I was writing for another artist at the time, and she wasn't dating anybody and wasn't really going through anything. So I ended up kind of being able to write out all of my pain, like, through her voice. So I wrote that song about the guy I was dating, but even though I was still dating him at the time, because I couldn't bring myself to leave the situation, I was able to, like, write about how I was feeling. And since it was for her originally, I kind of got to get all of that out through her voice. And then she ended up not cutting it, so then I did after we broke up, and it was kind of cool.
Oh, wow. It's the way that's how things come full circle, and you know that there are no coincidences, and it was meant to roll out exactly like that.
Yeah. So, yeah. Called Wish It Was You. If you guys want to listen, find it on any streaming platform.
I wish it was you. I wish it was you. Waking up in the night and you can't get your breath 'cause your chest is too tight. I hope that you lose what's left of your mind. Everything that you put me through. I wish it was you. I wish it was you.
What's really happening in the brain, and why are so many children struggling with speech, dysregulation, sensory overload, and emotional control? Parents are overwhelmed, the information is conflicting, and families are left searching for real answers. On February 26th at 6 p.m. in Midtown Manhattan, join Dr. Robert Melillo, a world-leading autism expert, for a powerful, free, neuro-based seminar explaining autism, brain imbalance, regulation, and communication delays, and what true progress actually looks like. 50% off a consultation, free Disconnected Kids book, one in-person guest wins an $8,000 therapeutic cold laser. Spots are limited. RSVP now at drrobertmelillo.com.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by the Fieldhouse in Northvale, New Jersey, a vibrant and fresh take on youth and adult sports and family fun, and home to the New Jersey Thunder softball program. Plan unforgettable birthday parties or private events, or explore camps and programs that keep kids active and inspired. Take time for yourself in adult leagues or rent a field or court with friends. From a cutting-edge gaming cave to hitting and pitching centers and top-tier sports instructors, the Fieldhouse is reigniting the next generation of play. Head to njfieldhouse.com.
And that's a wrap, my dear friends. We are at the end of our date. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeart Radio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Remember to join me right here on A Moment of Zen every Saturday, or you could head directly to amomentofzen.com for live listening links and episode downloads in your city. And remember that we're live on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern. We upload to our YouTube channel Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. And all episodes of A Moment of Zen are available on your home TV streaming platform. You could head directly to mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. We'll be back next week.